If your eyes have been getting cloudier since you turned 60 and the print in your Bible looks like it has a soft fog over it that wasn't there 5 years ago, please do not buy another pair of stronger glasses today. Do not order another bottle of drops. There is something the old folks in my community have known for 7 generations, something the eye doctors will never tell you in their 15-minute appointment, and it has nothing to do with a pill. It has to do with a small red berry, a soft-boiled egg, and one quiet thing your body stops making after 60 that almost no one in America is told about. I am going to walk you through all of it today, and I am going to tell you plain what I keep on my own shelf at 65 years old and why. Hello, dear ones. My name is Rebecca Yoder. I am Amish, born and raised in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, and for 65 years I have cared for the women in my community the way my mother cared for hers and her mother before her. 5 generations. The English come sometimes from the universities with their notebooks and their questions, and they leave a little surprised by what they find. Because in my community, we do not lose our eyes the way our English neighbors do. A study came out of Penn State a few years back. A 43% lower rate of cataracts in our community. 43%. Not from a vitamin pill, not from a prescription drop. From what we eat, and from one quiet thing most folks lose after 60 without ever knowing it. Stay with me, because the third thing I am going to share is the one most folks miss entirely, and it is the reason the first 2 often do not work on their own. But first, the berry. It is small and red, no bigger than a raisin. The Chinese have been drying it in the sun for over 2,000 years. They call it the eye berry. The English call it goji. My grandmother, who never met a Chinese herbalist in her life, kept a small jar of these dried berries in her pantry next to the elderberries and the rose hips because a cousin married into a family that brought them over in a tin from the old country, and my grandmother tasted one and said, "This is good medicine." She was right by 60 years. Here is what the laboratories have only now figured out. The berry contains 2 pigments called zeaxanthin and lutein. After you eat them, those pigments travel up to the back of your eye, to a small spot called the macula, and they sit there like a pair of natural sunglasses tucked inside the eye itself, filtering the harsh blue light that wears the eye down year after year. Think of them like the screen door on a porch in summer. They let the breeze through and keep out what should not come in. Without them, every bit of bright light scratches at the eye for decades. But here is the part that should make you sit up. After 60, your body's stores of those pigments drop sharply. By 75, many folks have lost more than half. The eye is left without its screen door. The light gets in raw. The lens grows cloudy, and the world dims, slow and quiet, until one day you cannot read the church bulletin without holding it under the lamp. Researchers in Boston followed 150 older folks who soaked a small spoonful of these dried berries in warm water and ate them every morning with breakfast. After 90 days, they measured the pigments in the back of those folks' eyes against folks who did not eat the berries. The berry eaters had a 26% rise in macular pigment, 26%. The cloudiness in their lenses slowed, and in folks who already had early cataracts forming, the cloudiness softened. The old herbalists who first wrote about this berry in the 8th century would have only nodded, but knowing the berry is only the beginning. Because there is something else happening in your body after 60 that decides whether the berry actually reaches your eye or passes straight through you. Almost no one talks about it. I will get to it in a few minutes. Stay with me. I had a neighbor named Eleanor, 73, a retired librarian. 40 years she worked with books, and her eyes were her livelihood. She came to my porch 3 years ago and said, "Rebecca, I cannot read the church bulletin anymore without holding it under the lamp." Her doctor told her the early cataracts in her left eye were getting denser, surgery within 2 years. What no one had asked her was that Eleanor had been eating very little color since her husband passed. White bread, plain noodles, boiled chicken. Her eyes had nothing to draw from. I gave her a bag of dried goji berries and showed her how to soak 2 tablespoons in warm water each morning and to eat them with the yolk of a soft-boiled egg because the pigments need a little fat to ride into the body. 12 weeks later, she came back with her quilting magazine in her lap and said, "Rebecca, I read the whole thing this morning at the kitchen table, in sunlight, without my magnifier." Her doctor measured her macular pigment and it had risen 17%. He told her surgery could wait. Speak to your doctor before you change any course of treatment, but Eleanor's eyes told her the truth her body was already living. Now Eleanor's story is a good one. But Eleanor was the easier case. Her gut still worked. And that brings me to the part I have been promising you, the third thing. After 60, your gut loses nearly 50% of the helpful bacteria it once carried. Half gone. And those bacteria are the workers. They are the ones that take the goji berry and the egg yolk and the leafy greens and break them down into the actual pigments your eye can use. Without those bacteria, the food goes through you and out, and very little ever reaches the eye. This is the quiet reason most folks over 70 are eating well and still going blind. It is not the food is fine. It is that the workers in the gut who used to handle that food are no longer there. And here is what no one will tell you in a 15-minute appointment. The good bacteria need 3 things working together. They need themselves, the bacteria. They need the fiber, which is what they eat. And they need the postbiotics, the small healing compounds the bacteria make once they have eaten the fiber. 3 things. Like a garden, the seed needs the soil, and the soil needs the water. If you have only the seed, nothing grows. This is why the probiotic pill on the pharmacy shelf does almost nothing for most folks over 60. It is just the seed. The bacteria arrive in a body that cannot feed them, and they die before they can do any work. I will tell you what I settled on for this on my own shelf in a few minutes. Because for 10 years I tried everything I could find for the women on my porch whose bellies had stopped working right. Only one thing finally did what my grandmother's full pantry used to do. But before I tell you that, the second practice my mother kept every day until 91 was the morning egg. A soft-boiled egg with the yolk runny. The yolk holds those same eye pigments in a form your body absorbs more completely than any other food on earth. Folks who eat 1 egg a day have been shown to raise their macular pigment by as much as 35% over 6 months. The old monks called it the gold of the sun. Eat them soft, with butter on a slice of bread. But here is the catch, the same catch as the berry. If your gut workers are gone, the yolk's pigments pass straight through you too. The food is doing its job, your gut is not. So let me tell you what I settled on for that, because the women on my porch have been asking me about it for 2 years now, and I have to say plain why this is the one I keep on my shelf. For about 10 years I tried everything. The old fermented foods, sauerkraut, kefir, kombucha. They helped some women, not others. The probiotic pills from the health store worked for 2 weeks and then stopped. Herbal bitters, slippery elm bark, dandelion root from the hollow behind our farm. Each helped a little. None of them held it together. Then a researcher who had come to study our community years before sent me a small bottle in the mail with a note. He said, "Rebecca, we have been working on something for older folks whose guts have lost their workers. It carries all 3 things at once. The bacteria themselves, the fiber that feeds them, and the postbiotic compounds that do the real healing. 2 studied strains, lactospore and postbiotics LM1004, both strong enough to survive the stomach acid, which most pharmacy probiotics are not. And he had added dandelion root and slippery elm, the very 2 herbs my grandmother used to dig from our hollow. I tried it for 90 days before I would speak of it to anyone. By the 2nd month, my own digestion had quieted in a way it had not in 10 years. The food I ate started doing its work again. My eyes felt brighter in the morning. I gave it to the women on my porch who had been struggling, and one by one their bodies began doing the work the food had always been asking them to do. It is called BoochBod. It is the only one I keep on my shelf. A soft little gummy, not a pill that gets stuck halfway down, which matters more than you would think when you are 75 and tired of swallowing tablets the size of a dime. Over 30,000 folks are using it now. The makers stand behind it with a 60-day promise. If your body does not feel different, you send the bottle back, even an empty bottle, and they refund every penny. The link is in the description below. Speak to your doctor before starting any supplement, especially if you are on heart medicine or blood thinners. I am going to come back to this in a few minutes, because the next case I want to tell you about is the one where this finally locked into place for me. Stay with me. There are 3 things on the table of the average American home that quietly take the clearness from the eyes, and I cannot finish this without naming them. The first is sugar. Plain white sugar in coffee, in cereal, in the sweet drinks folks sip through the day. Sugar binds to the proteins in the lens of your eye and stiffens them, the way a clear glass turns frosted in the dishwasher over time. By 70, many folks have lenses stiff with sugar, and the cataract is just the visible end of that long, quiet stiffening. The second is seed oil: soybean, corn, canola, sunflower. They carry an unstable fat that, once it reaches the eye, oxidizes the soft tissues. Imagine the way an apple turns brown when you cut it open and leave it on the counter. The eye does the same thing, slow and quiet, every day. Use butter, use lard, use olive oil for cool dishes. The third is the bright screen at night. Your eye was made for the soft light of fire and lamp. Bright blue light at night wears the macula thin year after year. After supper, dim the lights. Sit on the porch in the dusk like our folks have done for hundreds of years. Set those 3 aside, and you have already begun the work. Now there is one more practice before the master practice, because my mother did this every day until she was past 90, the morning sun. She would step out onto the back porch just as the sun was rising and let the soft yellow light fall on her closed eyelids for 2 or 3 minutes. Eyes closed, face turned up. The early sun, before 9 in the morning, carries a warm red light the eye drinks in, and that light tells the body's internal clock to repair what was worn the day before. Researchers in California have shown that older folks who sit in the early morning sun for 10 minutes a day have 17% less age-related macular wear over 2 years. My mother only knew her eyes felt clearer when she did it. The laboratories caught up to her last year. A neighbor of mine, Vincent, 81, retired carpenter from Vermont, came to me when his doctor told him his macula was thinning fast. He had not been outside in the morning light in years. I asked him to stand on his porch every morning for 10 minutes, eyes closed, facing the sun. 4 months later, his next eye exam showed the thinning had stopped. His doctor wrote in his file, "Unexplained stabilization." Vincent stood on my porch in spring with tears in his eyes and said, "Rebecca, I can see the rust on the weather vane on my barn again." If you are still with me, dear ones, I am proud of you, because we are about to come to the heart of all of this. The master practice, the one that holds the others together. It is the pairing of the goji berry with bone broth. My grandmother kept a pot of bone broth simmering on the back of her wood stove almost every day. She would drop in a handful of dried goji berries, a piece of dried orange peel, and a small ginger root from her garden, and let it simmer for hours. Then she would drink a warm cup in the late afternoon, sitting in her rocker by the window. What the broth carries is collagen. Your eye is held together by collagen. The cornea, the lens capsule, the small vessels feeding the retina, all of them are collagen. After 60, your body makes less and less of it. The bone broth feeds your body the very building blocks it can no longer make on its own, and the goji berry simmered in that warm broth releases its pigments slowly into the liquid, where the fats from the marrow carry them straight up to the eye. But here's the catch one more time, and I am telling you this because I have watched it happen on my own porch with my own eyes for 10 years. The bone broth practice works for some women, and it does not work for others. And the difference, every single time, is the gut, the bacteria, the workers. Let me tell you about Beatrice. Beatrice was 76, a school teacher from Arkansas, 40 years in the classroom. Her doctor had told her she had moderate cataracts in both eyes, surgery scheduled for spring. Beatrice had been eating cold cereal and toast for 10 years since her husband passed. No warm, soft food in her body anywhere. I taught her how to make the bone broth, slow on the back of her stove, and to add the goji berries in the last hour. I asked her to drink a warm cup every afternoon at 3. She came back to my porch 4 months later and said, "Rebecca, my eyes are a little better, but not the way you said, not the way Eleanor's were. This is the moment, dear ones, that taught me what I am telling you today." Beatrice was doing every single thing right. The berry, the broth, the egg, the morning sun. And she was getting maybe 20% of what should have been hers. Her gut was the broken link. Her workers were gone, and the food, no matter how good, was passing through her without finishing the work. I gave her a bottle of the BoochBod gummies and told her to take them every morning with her egg. 8 months later, she walked back to my porch in autumn, carrying a basket of apples she had picked from her own tree. Her eye doctor had measured her cataracts again, and they had softened. He had moved her surgery date back a full year. She told me, "Rebecca, I read my husband's old letters last night, the whole stack of them, by lamplight. I have not done that in 8 years. Her eyes filled, and so did mine. Beatrice's foundation was the broth, the egg, the berry, the sun. But the piece her body could no longer build on its own, the missing workers in her gut, those came from the gummy. And once those workers were back at their stations, every other thing she had been doing for months suddenly began to do its job. Speak to your doctor before changing any treatment, but Beatrice's life had given her back something the doctors could not. So if you have been with me this whole way, here is what I would do, in this order. Start with the berry, soaked warm with breakfast, paired with a soft boiled egg and a pat of butter. Take 3 afternoons a week to make a pot of bone broth with the goji berries. Drink a warm cup at 3. Stand on your porch in the morning light with your eyes closed for 10 minutes. Set aside the sugar, the seed oil, the bright screen at night. And if you are over 60, please consider the gummy. Not because I sell it, I do not, but because in my 65 years of watching what works on this porch, the gut is the bridge. And the bridge after 60 is broken in nearly everyone, and you can do everything else right and still not get there without it. The link is in the description, and the makers will refund you in full within 60 days if your body does not change. There is nothing for you to lose, and your eyes are not something to wait on. Dear ones, picture something with me. 5 years from now, you at your kitchen window in the early morning light, reading a letter from your granddaughter, the one she sent for your 84th birthday. Her handwriting small and neat. You read every word, without the magnifier, without holding it under the lamp. And then you fold that letter, set it on the table, and go put your shoes on, because Sunday morning is coming and you have a church to drive yourself to. These are the mornings you are protecting. These are the Sundays. These are not small things. It is never too late. The body at 70 and 75 and 80 can still heal. The eye can still clear. Your body knows how to repair itself when we feed it what it has always asked for, and when we give it back the workers it has quietly lost. If everything I have shared has reached you today, do one thing for me. Click the link in the description below and read about the BoochBod gummies for yourself. Read the 60-day promise. And if it feels right, try a bottle. If your body does not feel different, send it back. You lose nothing. You give your eyes the missing piece they have been asking for quietly since the day you turned 60. Until I see you next, may your mornings be soft and your evenings be quiet and your eyes be clear for many long years yet. Take care of yourselves, dear ones. I will be here.